What an amazing opportunity to store herbs and various other items that you like to use in your craft. Nothing but the bagel, everything but the bagel, nothing but the bagel. What is that called? Hey, howdy and hello humans. Welcome back to my house. I hope you are doing well. Today we're going to talk about 10 tips for witches or 10 witchy life hacks, whatever you want to call it. These are just some tips and tricks I have gathered along the way over the many years I've been practicing witchcraft, and they have definitely helped me and made my life easier, and hopefully they will work for you too. And with that being said, let's dive into the list. Tip number 1 is to search the herbal tea aisle for herbs that you couldn't find on the spice aisle. So you're gonna find a lot of cool things on the spice aisle. You know, I talked about in one of my previous videos about some really powerful, potent herbs that are really versatile and helpful that you can find in the spice aisle at your local grocery store. You know, from black pepper to rosemary, turmeric, cinnamon, basil, bay leaves, nutmeg, cloves, all these things. You can find so many things, and even mixes of things. You know, nothing but the bagel, everything but the bagel, nothing but the bagel. What is that called? Everything but the bagel? I think that's it. Everything but the bagel seasoning has quite a mixture of things, all very powerful in magic. It would be really good for protection, I'm just saying. So you can even find spice blends that will work beautifully in your practice. But there are some things you cannot find on the spice aisle. So that's why I encourage you to walk on over to the tea and coffee aisle and see what you can find there. Because you're going to find things like peppermint, chamomile, sometimes even lavender on these aisles. And all you got to do is just open up the tea bag and use the herbs that are in it. It's just that easy. So don't limit yourself to the spice aisle. Go to the tea aisle as well. Tip number 2 is to use salt, sand, or cat litter to help hold up your chime candles. So the chime candles, which are like the little skinny candles, or sometimes people use birthday candles as well, and they just don't have the candle holders for them. So what do? Some people will melt the bottom and stick it to a plate, which works, but you can also get a heat-safe bowl, a nice glass bowl, or a cast iron pot or something like that, and you can fill the bottom with either salt or sand or even cat litter, and you can put your candle down in it and it will hold it up. And you can also put tea lights on this if you're worried about them burning your table or something, if you don't have holders for them. And this is just something that I still do sometimes. I may put some salt in my cauldron and put a candle on top of it. Now, when using cat litter, only use the clay cat litter. Do not use any of like the pine pellets or the shredded paper kind, because that's flammable, but the clay cat litter will work because you can even actually put out some fires with that. So clay cat litter only. Tip number 3 is to reuse your old jar candles, like the ones you get from Bath and Body Works, like with the nice lid and everything. Even your Yankee candles, reuse those. Some people will pour boiling water in them so that the melted wax floats to the top, and then when it cools, you just pull it off. I like to put them in the freezer for about 12 to 24 hours, and then I take them out and I can take a chopstick and the wax just breaks right off, and then I can clean the rest with some warm soapy water. But particularly if these jar candles have lids, what an amazing opportunity to store herbs and various other items that you like to use in your craft. Just reuse them. A lot of people do this, but I'm telling you, reuse your jar candles. Tip number 4 is to put small crystals or crystal chips in your cleansing sprays or your magical oils to help mix them up, like a little shaker. You know, like when you shake a can of spray paint and there's little ball bearings in there. Use the crystals not only to help add another element to these oils and cleansing sprays, but also to help mix them when you use them. Now, I try to use crystals that are not only like will help benefit, like if I'm using, like if I got like a money oil, I will use a crystal that is good in, you know, a money spell, but also make sure that it's safe to be submerged and it doesn't just disappear or possibly make what you're using toxic. Not that you should be eating any of these things, but still do your research and be safe. But it's just a little tip that I've learned, and it's really helped with mixing my oils and my sprays before I use them. Tip number 5 is to add alcohol to your rainwater to help extend its shelf life and to keep it from going nasty on your shelves. I've had rainwater grow like mold and algae and all kinds of stuff because it's not chlorinated, you know, so it will go bad faster than chlorinated water like that you may use for moon water on your shelf. Now, when I say alcohol, I don't mean rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. I mean like grain alcohol. You know, you can use vodka or Everclear, something like that for this. You don't need a lot, just put a little bit in there and that will help kill bacteria, which will allow the water to go gross. Tip number 6, use a coffee grinder instead of a mortar and pestle. Mortar and pestles can be very expensive depending on where you're buying them from. And also if you have issues with your hands, maybe your hand strength, or you have mobility issues, or you have problems with your wrist, or even your shoulder, using a mortar and pestle can be painful, if not impossible, depending on you and what your physical strength may be. So use a coffee grinder. It works fast, it's efficient, and it will grind your herbs down to a fine powder for the most part. Tip number 7 is to use apps when foraging. There are a lot of plant identification apps out there. The 2 that I recommend are Picture This and PlantNet. I will put those in the description box down below, but use these when you go foraging. 1, it's a great opportunity to learn about the local plants in your area, and 2, it's just really good if you're just not that savvy on identifying plants. Now, do not trust this alone. If you are looking to be ingesting anything that you are foraging in the wild, I don't recommend that unless you are a professional or you are with a professional. But for magical uses, it can be very beneficial. Just make sure that what you're touching isn't deadly or harmful, like poison ivy, poison oak, sumac, things like that. Just make sure you know the dangerous plants that are in your area. Google is helpful for that, but using these plant identification apps, and they're usually pretty darn accurate, will help you when foraging, because you'd be surprised how many magical plants that you can use in your craft are growing around you right now. Tip number 8, which I kind of touched on a little bit ago, is use birthday candles in your spells. If you cannot find or afford those little chime candles, use birthday cake candles, because you can buy them in so many different colors. And not to mention, if you're really trying to do a quick spell and you don't have time to let a big candle burn all the way down, birthday candles are going to be your friend because they will burn fast. Tip number 9 is to use those little sachet bags, those little mesh or muslin bags when taking a ritual bath or a shower. A lot of people will sprinkle their herbs all in the bath, and that may sound great until herbs get in places the sun doesn't shine, or when you drain the bath and they either all go down the drain and possibly clog your pipes, or you've got all these wet herbs stuck to the side of your tub. It can be really messy. So when I take ritual baths, I put everything in one of those little bags and I just put it in my bath like a tea bag. And alternately, you can use they make tea bags that you can put your own tea in, and you can use those. Or if you only have coffee filters, put them in a coffee filter and tie a string around the top and use that. That way you're still benefiting from the herbs, but you're not having them just floating around in the bath with you. And also, if you want to take a ritual shower, hang it on the shower head and let the water rush through it. Again, do your research, make sure everything you're using is safe to be used in your bath. And tip number 10 is when searching the internet for information about witchcraft, don't just stick to Google. Google is going to filter your results based on your search results in the past and the things you're most likely to click on. You and I could search for the exact same thing in Google and get completely different results based on our habits online. So try to explore out and use other search engines. I really like DuckDuckGo. That's another one that I use. And also, you can also use Google Scholar, which I know is still within Google. But when you go into Google Scholar, you will get actual scholarly articles written about certain topics that can also be really beneficial, as opposed to just opening up somebody's blog and just hearing their opinions. You can actually find real academic articles written about certain topics within the occult, and that can be really helpful as well. There you have it, guys. 10 tips for witches, not just for new witches, for all witches. These are things that I still use and work really well for me to this day, and I'm going to continue using them because they're super helpful. If you have any tips, let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, click the bell so that you never miss another video. And with that, I will bid you all farewell. I hope you have a wonderful day, week, month, year. If it's your birthday, happy birthday, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.